Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The ISIS threat, of course, is undoubtedly a reality now in the region after the Kabul airport blast. But how will this change things for the region as far as America is concerned? Of course, they're set to leave by the 31st, but how will this change? Will we see a joint effort, a joint action against the ISIS or not as far as the region is concerned? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the growing influence of course, China and Russia in the region. How does that manifest itself? How does that change things in the near future for, of course, Afghanistan and Pakistan particularly, also the Taliban and our own concerns as far as their role in Afghanistan is concerned. Will they be able to ally our own fears, our own concerns about their government within Afghanistan? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Anwarul Haq Kakar, who's a senator with BAP. Thank you for joining us today. Umar Khan Ali Sherzai, who is a former ambassador. Thank you for being with us today. Saeed Muhammad Ali, who is Director Strategic Affairs, CAS. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
We also have with us Anwar Iqbal, who is a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us from Washington. Anwar Sahab, let's start off with you. How do you see the developing situation as far as Afghanistan is concerned? Of course, Pakistan has always maintained, and even today we saw the information minister say that we want an inclusive government as far as Afghanistan is concerned. Our concern, of course, is only for the people of Afghanistan and the region, but we want a peaceful Afghanistan primarily. How do you see things?
Well, of course, this is the stated objective and the stated position of the government of Pakistan.
Yeah.
First of all, we don't have any favorites. Second talking point is that we want all-inclusive government.
Right.
And the third is that we want a peaceful and prosperous Pakistan. I mean, if these are the three goalposts, at the moment, none of them has been realized. We do not have a peaceful Afghanistan. We do not have an inclusive government. And there is no such thing as stable Afghanistan. So you require a pathway, a journey to achieve all these goals. How do you do that? That is more important. First of all, it's a bit ambitious plan, which Pakistan cannot realize it on its own.
Right.
So the
we need a
first
regional
approach,
partners,
the right approach, is the regional approach, which Pakistan is applying. Along with China, along with Russia, along with Central Asian states, all of them. Why we require a regional approach? Because the geographical proximity is a compulsion upon the region.
Yeah.
To be cautious and vary what happens in Afghanistan. The luxury of geography is a distance which probably Europe or for that matter across Atlantic US enjoys. We don't. So we have a sense of urgency. US and NATO, they are leaving the region. But where do we go? We cannot abandon the region. We cannot transfer or swaps excuse me, our geographies. So the first phase has to be that there has to be semblance and some authority in Kabul which you may call an interim administrators. If they are not the legitimate government, at least some sort of interim administration where you can develop some sort of working relationship.
Okay.
As we have seen in the process of evacuation, even the American administration was talking to Taliban and they were treating them as de facto government. The EU, the UK and the rest of the world, when the need was there, they did that. We have probably more than urgency to
You're
talk
saying
to
talk to them, or you're saying to acknowledge them formally?
Well, formal acknowledgement, of course,
Doesn't
it
matter,
has
you're
certain
saying at this
goalposts, it has certain targets which needs to be realized. I'm not jumping into that phase that we should immediately go and recognize them. But yes, the process
saying
of
that of course-
recognition, the process of talking
You're
about
saying the
recognition,
consultative process needs to be there.
the discourse has to initiate. The discourse has to
But
not
hasn't it already, in your opinion?
well, not just here in the region, but in my humble opinion, through the big players in the region, it should get reflected in the major capitals of the world, be it London, be it in DC or Brussels or wherever. The Russians are the big players, the Chinese are the big players.
Okay.
It should reflect through them
Let me come back to you. I'm
and
going
through
to go
Pakistan
to-
also, of course.
Right, of course. Let me go to Umar Khan Ali Sherzai. Ji, how do you agree? You think that, of course, that discourse has to go, and in a sense, don't you think it's already happening? Because all over the world, we are seeing, you know, an outcry, in a sense, for the Afghani people. If you look closely enough, I think that people all over the world are concerned not only for the plight of the Afghanis, you know, the refugees also, but overall whether there will be peace or not. And now that the ISIS is there, how do you see things?
Well, I have my own opinion and a little different than
Ji,
what
please.
my colleague has said. The fact is that for us, the most important should be our own national interest.
Right.
Whatever suits our national interest, we should follow that. In my opinion, the Taliban have always been supportive of Pakistan. They have never betrayed Pakistan even during their past regime. And as long as the Taliban were there, our borders were absolutely safe. There were no problems. But as soon as we decided to side with the Americans against the Taliban,
Okay.
and Karzai government was installed, an imported government, and which of course we very happily recognized because of the Americans. But you see that what happened after his coming over, that the nexus between RAW and NDS expanded, and which resulted in about 80,000 human losses of Shohada to Pakistan, and billions and billions of dollars. Now that we are fencing our borders, it is all because of the blessings of the Americans that we allowed them to land route. And so in my humble opinion, we should not wait for the Americans or for the Europeans. We should go ahead and recognize the Taliban regime as soon as possible.
But what about our concerns as far as the Taliban are concerned at this time? Because of course, you know, there's another debate going on about how whether they're whatever they're saying as far as their plans are concerned is actually what they propose to actually put in action. Because, you know, is it just talk? Are they going to walk the talk, so to speak, which is a phrase which is being used quite a bit? Don't we have to satisfy ourselves about that also?
Please let me know what are our concerns.
We have within.
What are our concerns?
You think?
Why we are concerned about the human issues or the other issues? That is a matter which should be settled by the Afghan government themselves.
Okay.
We should not be bothered. Who has cared for the human rights? Is America caring for the human rights in Palestine? Is America caring for the human rights in Kashmir? Then why the world should be concerned about the human rights problems in Afghanistan? Let the Taliban government settle down. Let them appoint their Amir, and they are capable of settling their own problems. So we should not be concerned. You know,
We
our
should not be
concern should
concerned
be
about the
the
violations of human
cross-border,
rights
the
across the border.
cross-border terrorism that we have been facing for the last 20 years from Afghanistan. That should be our most,
Okay.
the biggest concern of Pakistan, rather than that we care for the human rights violations. And well, you must have seen that they have allowed the women to work, and whatever they do, it is their own government. If you see, and we had, the
Let me come back to
some
you. That's very-
governments which
you've
were
been
not,
very, I
who
mean,
were not elected representatives, but even then they were ruling the country.
no, but you've been very what's the word for it? I don't know. I mean, the state. You're saying it shouldn't be our concern what happens as far as violations across the border are concerned, because of course, like you are saying, we are not in the luxury of being far away from Afghanistan, like perhaps the US is.
Well, that is what I'm saying, that the Taliban will never disappoint you.
Okay.
Whatever they promise, They will
will
stand
do,
by their
you're saying.
promise, and
Okay.
they have
Okay.
never stabbed you at your back.
Okay.
You know, as
You're
long
saying-
as they were
okay,
there in
that's your
their
opinion.
previous
Let me-
regime, your borders were absolutely safe.
Okay,
And
let
this
me-
time, they are openly saying that our country will never be used by any terrorist group against any country.
Okay, right. Ji, Muhammad Ali Saab, do you agree with that? You're saying that, you know, because of course Ambassador Saab is saying that there is, it shouldn't be our concern what happens as far as violations of human rights are concerned. Of course, you know, in a sense, when we say that our primary concern should be across the border terrorism and the fact that they don't allow Afghanistan to be used against Pakistan, which, you know, everyone agrees with. But as far as the situation within Afghanistan is concerned, do you think we can be as, what would be the word, uncaring, you know, callous, I would say, about what happens within Afghanistan?
Thank you, Maruf. I think it's a very important question, and I agree with what Senator Saab and Ambassador Saab said. But let me present the situation in a more comprehensive and coherent framework.
Okay.
There are four aspects of the current somewhat delicate and fluid situation that we are witnessing in Afghanistan. There is a political dimension. Which indicates that there is a positive trend that Afghan Taliban are engaging with all the other communities and stakeholders and reaching out to them in order to form a government which is, as we and international community expects, hopefully inclusive. But that remains a work in progress. The second dimension is the security dimension, which is perhaps the most important. Although Afghan Taliban enjoy territorial control over most of the Afghan territory, but still it remains to be seen whether they can actually live up to the expectations of the neighbors and the international community, and they will deny they have the will and the capacity to deny the space to the spoilers, including ISIS, which launched you know, the recent attack, and also deny and eliminate the space for TTP and ETIM and other such groups. That is very important. The third dimension is another very important dimension, the diplomatic dimension, that whether their rule and the government will be diplomatically recognized by the international community, and they'll be removed from the UN Security Council and US sanctioned list. Because if that doesn't happen, they will not be able to receive the international financial assistance, foreign investment, without which they cannot be able to expect to convert their conquest into a normal a nation state and good governance, without which the last implication that we as Ambassador Saab rightly pointed out are rightly concerned regarding our national interest, that what do we need, whatever we expect from Afghanistan is the consequence of these four things, because the refugees come here, the criminals come here, the drugs come here, the terrorists come here. So these things are a direct consequence of the misgovernance. And let me tell you frankly, notwithstanding whoever is in power in Kabul, and I am hopeful that things will improve in future. But my modest reading of the entire Afghan history is that it has never been governed properly. And that allows the space to the criminals, to the drug lords, and that is what is the issue.
Faith which Ambassador Saab is talking about in the Taliban.
I'm hopeful.
Or do we have to be at this time cautious about how much of what they say is to be believed?
Absolutely. We have to be cautious, but we have to go beyond these two extremes, that we need Afghanistan to be left to the Afghans, that they are going to take care of themselves, or we need to micromanage. We need to work with the international community, we need to work with the regional players, we need to work with the neighbors, and also all the Afghan stakeholders to convince them that achieving stability, security and prosperity is a common goal. It is not a zero-sum game.
Right. Okay, let me come back to you. Anwar Saab, do you think that we can be, you know, how have things changed after this blast for the international community? Of course, particularly the US.
There is no radical change. There is no change of policy which we can witness. Yes, whatever they were thinking of the region, that has probably reinforced. We shouldn't forget that presence of ISIS in Afghanistan is there for last at least 4 to 5 years.
Right.
So in terms of intelligence picture, this is not something new to the US administration, to the rest of the European governments or to the UK's government. Everyone knew of ISIS presence in Afghanistan.
But the way that it is being said, of course, that it's a huge failure of intelligence as far as the US is concerned, among other things, as far as this attack was concerned. They were aware that it might happen. And then now that it's happened, do you think that America will perhaps not be washing its hands of Afghanistan in the way that they thought possible before?
Well, there is a criticism on this particular aspect that they were aware of it, but they couldn't prevent it.
Okay.
Right, and there is a domestic criticism of the U.S. government on the evacuation process and on this aspect as well. The issue is larger.
Okay.
ISIS would be posing a threat to not just Afghan stability or social or political order. It is an emerging threat to Pakistan. It is an emerging threat to Central Asian states. It is an emerging threat to China, to Iran, to Russia. So the whole region is having a sense of it's an ominous sort of a situation.
So
a
you think that there
dangerous
will be
situation.
unity against the ISIS?
Well, there is one player which is out of all this danger threat perception, and that is India. And maybe due to the presence of Indian nationals, and it is reported there is no propagation of Indian nationals have been and are part of ISIS
Okay.
Khorasan chapter, along with the Central Asian nationals, along with Pakistani nationals in shape of disgruntled element of TTP and the rest. So there is one player which as a nation state is bit away
Okay.
from this larger threat. That would raise eyebrows. That would raise eyebrows, and many players in the region would have a doubtful and suspicious approach toward the Indian presence and its approach towards this problem.
Okay.
And the US and Europe, I think so, particularly Europe. Europe and UK, in particular, I would retreat that there is a huge presence of Muslim population in that continent.
Right.
So if, let's say, there are 2 million or 3 million or 4 million people, I don't have the statistics, and 1% of that population gets radicalized,
Okay.
that radicalized can be a
Dangerous.
flag carrier for
Right.
the same ISIS and its philosophy, and it would have a lot of implications for the Europe. So a stable, peaceful, reasonable Afghanistan is not just in the
You're
interest
saying
of the region,
but even
but
all over the
also
world. Right.
in the wider community
Yeah,
of the International Community of the Nations. So they need to realize that this is not that simple, that they're going to wash away their hands and they say, okay, we have abandoned it, now it's your problem, you're going to sort out this mess. No, I'm sorry. We cannot, we should not, and they should not.
Okay.
It is in the best of their
So they're not going to.
interest
So,
also.
so as far as the US is concerned, you think that it's not going to be as easy for them, Ambassador Saab, to just walk away?
Well, frankly speaking, if you follow the speeches of Biden, what he said that we went to Afghanistan for a specific
Right,
purpose, which we
right.
achieved, and,
And now we want to. Yes.
we are withdrawing. So that should open our eyes what objectives they had.
But then the attack happened, and now
And,
they seem to be saying something which is not really clear,
Well,
right?
but let me
Gigi,
complete.
please.
The problem of Daesh, in which, this recent blast in which the more than 17 Taliban Mujahideen died, and similarly the Americans died. This is what I have been emphasizing, that let the Taliban form a proper government,
Okay.
then strengthen them, and they have promised to the world that they would not allow ISIS
Okay.
to carry out their operations against any other country. But now they have not even taken over properly, and now we are demanding everything from day one. This should be done, this should be done. They are capable of settling their internal matters. If you remember, when the Taliban last time they were in power, the one order of Mullah Omar to stop the poppy cultivation in Afghanistan, nobody in the entire Afghanistan could dare to plant even a single plant of poppy in the entire Afghanistan. That is their way of ruling. That then they are capable of curbing the ISIS and other terrorist organizations. And I agree with it that the spoiler, the India, there have been no operations in India of the ISIS. That means, that indicates clearly that ISIS is being sponsored and supported by India. They are creating mischief for Pakistan through the NDS, through RAW, and now they are using ISIS. So what at the time that we should do, we should give an opportunity to the Afghans, the Taliban, to settle down, form a government. In Panjshir, they talked to the Ahmad Shah Massoud's son, Ahmad Massoud, and they said, we agreed not to fight. So they are capable of settling their own problems. We should not interfere in their internal matters. Let the Afghans settle their own matters. And if we cooperate, and if the world cooperates with the Taliban, I am sure
That
they
they
are
will.
capable of wiping out all these terrorist organizations from their country.
Okay. Ji, Muhammad Ali Saab, you agree? You think that American influence, regardless of whether they will wash their hands off Afghanistan or not, the Afghans, again, we need to give them that time. We need to allow them to form government, which is what Ambassador Saab is saying.
Yes, I agree with him, and let me take it slightly further, the discussion a little further. There are three things that I think is useful for your audience to consider. We see things mostly in binary terms. Even if you look at Afghan Taliban and the US relationship, we tend to see it as an adversarial relationship.
Okay.
But there are four things which, if you look at them, that indicates that their bilateral relationship has also transformed. Who allowed Afghan Taliban to open the office, their political office in Doha? It was with the US consent. So what does that mean? That means that tantamount to diplomatic and political legitimization of Afghan Taliban. And Kabul administration was not part of it.
Right.
The second most important thing is the Doha Agreement. The dominant superpower of the world signing a legal obligation bilaterally with a non-state actor. As a student of international relations, that's a historic document.
Right.
The third thing is the entire bilateral diplomatic engagement that took place in Doha. And last week, you know very well that CIA chief met
Yes.
the Afghan leadership in Kabul last week. So if you trace these developments which are publicly known,
Yes.
that indicates these are not just engagements. This is a building of a relationship. So when
So
we
you're
come to
saying
that,
that it's not even the US wants to build a kind of relationship
yes,
with the
yes,
Taliban.
it's not hostile anymore. And
Right.
in this context, I see what happened in, unfortunately, in the Kabul airport as a very badly managed security arrangement. Because the situation is turbulent and it is also in transition. The airport is still in the US control, but the outer parameters are being taken care of by different units of Afghan, some of their elite Afghan
But do you
Taliban
agree? I
units,
mean,
but they need better coordination.
But the
They-
reports that, of course, the US knew about this but couldn't prevent the attack.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. I'm trying to deconstruct the reality so that we have a better understanding of the situation realistically. So there needed to be better coordination. The Americans and all the other Europeans who expect to evacuate their employees and workers and contractors, they should have warned their people that this is not rocket science. I mean, airport management. If you know 20 flights are coming, who are going to board that? And only those people are supposed to be, if you go to Islamabad airport, you are not supposed to just linger around all the time.
But we're
You are
seeing
supposed to
people
go there.
jumping off airplanes at this
So
point.
that's what I'm saying. The security of the airport was with the Americans. So they should have ensured that only those people are allowed inside the airport who are expected to board the flights in the next 2-3 hours, rather than create a security challenge. The second is, and there needed to be a multi-layered approach. The outer layers could have been done by the Afghan Taliban.
But no, isn't it true that now the Taliban expect to take over the whole airport very soon?
That will happen, but I'm saying there needs to be, when there are different countries involved, different agencies involved, different organizations, there need to be better coordination.
Okay.
And that is why there is there is some news only today emerging that there is a possibility of a deal which involves not just Turkey but also Qatar, involving the airport management once the Afghan government formally takes over after the formal departure of the foreign troops, and that will perhaps improve the airport situation. But it is very important for me to highlight that even in this very precarious situation, where are all these flights coming to? Almost 400 flights have taken off from 16th August till today from Kabul to Islamabad. So even in this situation, the entire international community is relying and putting its trust on Pakistan to facilitate a safe, secure, responsible exodus of the international institutions, diplomats, journalists and workers. So that indicates that despite this challenging circumstances, the trust of the international community is still is enjoyed by Pakistan and its administrative ability to facilitate their exodus. Now let's come to the power transition aspect, which is what is the most important thing. Pakistan's role is the most critical in this period for 4 reasons. Number one, at the global level, Pakistan is the only non-permanent member of the Security Council, which is part of the Troika Plus arrangement, which has 3 permanent members of Security Council: US, Russia, China. And Pakistan is the 4th member. So even at the global level, if the diplomatic legitimacy has to be accorded to the new arrangement, Pakistan is the only non-permanent member, and that has a very important diplomatic significance. The second is the regional effort that our foreign minister recently led, a very important and timely diplomatic initiative, meeting the leadership of all the neighbors of Afghanistan and trying to bring them on board that we all have a collective responsibility towards stabilizing Afghanistan, towards recognizing it, and perhaps in future contributing towards its progress and development. The third dimension is the bilateral dimension between Pakistan and Afghan Taliban, that we continue to urge them, as Ambassador Saab rightly pointed out, in our own national interest, that any future diplomatic and political recognition will be contingent to their ability to ensure that Afghan territory is not used against Pakistan by any spoilers, be it ISIS, be it TTP. And lastly, Pakistan is
Also
again the
BLA.
only country which is facilitating the intra-Afghan dialogue. Pakistan's Ambassador Mansoor Saab is doing excellent job. Pakistan's Ambassador Sadiq Saab is doing an excellent job, meeting all the stakeholders, factions and leaders of Afghan on a daily basis in order to encourage them to show flexibility, accommodation and maturity.
Right. Ji Anwar Saab.
I was just saying that include the BLA terrorist also in.
Right. Okay.
Which
But
is because Balochistan is being directly affected by that,
yes.
and the
okay.
rest of the Pakistan probably is not that much affected. So that's why it's not on the radar
But-
in the mainstream Pakistani
Right. Okay. But I'm saying
discourse.
overall, if you look at the situation at this time, you know, as far as of course, you know, letting them find their feet, which is what Ambassador Saab is saying, letting the Taliban form government, waiting for that, we really don't have a choice. I mean, we have to wait for that. Whether we want them to do more, maybe, you know, according to him, it's too early to expect that because they're themselves forming government, they're doing. But as far as the region is concerned, let's talk about Russia and China. What role do you think you see them playing? Because we are, you know, we've been seeing how, as far as Russia is concerned, how China has been so concerned about what's happening. Of course, you know, they're all regional partners, minus India. What kind of role do you expect in the near future from them?
I anticipate that the Russians and the Chinese would already be in the process that how phase-wise they will recognize the political dispensation.
Okay.
When I was referring to that we should have a regional approach, it did not mean that I would bypass our national interest. Of course,
Of course.
it is all in the ambit of our national interest. And there are a couple of approaches in diplomacy which is better probably appreciated by our senior colleague over here than us. But as a reader of international relations, a student of international relations and diplomacy, I do see that there is a challenge on one hand of narrative coming directly on Pakistan. China does not have this burden that the West would be critical of it, of 2 decades of its role, how it handled Afghanistan. Russia doesn't have to face that. Central Asian state doesn't have to face that. Iran, in a way, doesn't have to face that. So we are in a very exclusive position that unfortunately, a narrative has been generated, crafted by a section of Western media and a section of Western academia and some section of their governments also, that somehow or the other Pakistan is responsible for the kind of outcome which the West is facing right now in Afghanistan by giving a tacit and open support to TTA, which is untrue. Now, when you have this kind of a situation, you have to be very cautious with your approach, with your language, with the manner you handle things, with your public posturing. So all these things they have a sense of exclusiveness with the Pakistan national interest. But rest of the region probably does not share all of this. So this is the context and the background why I am saying so.
Ji, Ambassador Saab, do you agree? You think that, you know, the context in which Anwar Saab is talking, do you agree with him?
Well, of course, I agree with him, but I would add that the Taliban have met, you know, with the Chinese foreign minister, and they have met the Russians at the highest level. And you will soon see that these governments, you know, those are the indications of their recognizing the Taliban government. And of course, you know, they have their own military and other objectives also. They are happy with the defeat of the Americans. Because when Russia was defeated, America was very happy, and now when America is defeated, certainly Russia is happy, and China has its own interest in the region, and therefore I think they are quite smart to see how the situation develops. But my own feeling is that these governments would recognize the Taliban government in the near future after they form a government after the 31st of August, after the withdrawal. But my own humble submission is that we should also look into the possibility of recognizing, you know, the Taliban government after, you know, they formally form a government. That would be in our interest. If we recognize the government afterwards, it will be, you know, the Taliban would not be indebted to us. Rather, being the closest neighbor and having lot of hopes with the Taliban, you know, we will miss this opportunity if we don't recognize the Taliban before any other country recognizes the Taliban government.
You're saying that it's the logical next step for a lot of the countries, but let's do it before them.
Certainly, it is. There is no other choice. If they could defeat America along with all the NATO forces, so don't you think that they are capable of settling their own matters inside their own country?
But what about the
So-
optics of it if you recognize them before any other country does?
Well, the optics, of course, is that if somebody recognized me first, I will certainly have a soft corner
No,
for
but
that.
for the rest of the world, I'm saying.
Well, for the rest of the world, we, as I said earlier, we should be concerned
And about
about
our
our
own.
interest.
Okay.
Our national interest dictates that we should recognize the Taliban government as soon as they formally announce their government. That is in our national interest. Do you think that despite all this that we did for the Americans, bringing the Taliban on table with the Americans, because I remember when I was ambassador in Saudi Arabia, the American ambassador told me that we have engaged Taliban and there is a Taliban leader, we are talking to him. I told him on his face that whoever he is, he's a fake Taliban leader. And after a week he came to me, Ambassador, you are correct, he was a fake Taliban leader. So the Taliban were not in any way ready to talk to the Americans. So it was because of the efforts, and I must give credit to the present government that they did a very good job of facilitating the Taliban talks with the Americans, and which resulted subsequently in the Doha Agreement. So it would stop the further bloodshed and the kind of Sharia rule that they will be imposing in Afghanistan. I am sure that peace would return to Afghanistan.
What about ISIS? You think it's going to
Well,
be...
I said earlier that they would not allow any terrorist organization to operate from their country. And they will wipe out the Daesh, or provided the international community supports them. But if right from the day one, when they have nothing, they have no support, you are asking them to do everything, I think it is unjust on
You're saying-
everybody's part to expect, you know, that much that they have not been given any international assistance. The international community, is high time that the international community now should come.
And you're saying that,
And-
of course, you're saying that we should recognize them first, the
Yes.
international community should follow
Yes,
suit.
that
We should
that-
give them that time to form government. We should then expect them to make sure that there is no terrorism.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right, Muhammad Ali Sahab, do you agree? Do you think it can be as simple as that?
I agree with Ambassador Saab in the context that his emphasis is on our national interest.
Okay.
How we pursue that, I have a slightly different approach.
Okay. How do you
For
see-
three reasons.
Ji.
When we look at Afghanistan, I think no country is as deeply affected by whatever happens in Afghanistan than Pakistan. And perhaps let me also reinforce his consideration by emphasizing that no country is as committed to the peace, progress and prosperity of Afghanistan as Pakistan. We are, and that vindicates our diplomatic position as well, that we have no favorites. We are a friend of the Afghan nation.
And we've shown how invested we are in the recent past,
but
of course.
the political reality is that we welcome the Afghan Taliban's overtures and efforts at engaging all the other communities, because the litmus test is not their military victory, which is, I think, will be read, studied, evaluated for decades in the strategic studies discipline. You know, however, their ability to convert into a legitimate role, legitimate rule, and also international diplomatic recognition is a different ball game altogether. Because, you know, Pakistan is, that's why leading very important and timely diplomatic efforts at engaging the regional countries, the international community to also work with the political realities afoot in Afghanistan. So, but realistically speaking, without these four things, these four conditions and commitments being made, it will be difficult for the international community
Do you think
to
they will?
immediately recognize them. Let me list them. Number one, an inclusive government. And because that is a commitment that Afghan Taliban have also made to the international community. Although it will be remains to be seen how inclusive that will be. But there could be some symbolic accommodation with other important leaders. The second is their ability to stabilize Afghanistan. The number three, their ability to actually deliver on their commitment to ensure that they will not allow the Afghan territory to be used by any spoilers. It is very good for Pakistan that the Indian space has reduced in Afghanistan. But will their proxies like BLA, like BLF, like TTP, like ISIs, will the new leadership eliminate them? That is very important. And once these three things are met, I am sure not just Pakistan, but with our diplomatic efforts, important countries like Russia, like China, like Iran, like the Central Asian countries have in their own interest also move towards recognition, because without recognition they also recognize they cannot engage with the new administration and they cannot help contribute towards its progress and stability. And once there is no progress and stability, the consequences of Afghan instability and bad governance will continue to haunt and harm all the countries, including Moscow and China.
But don't you think these are all, like when you're saying that there are these four things, of course, they're very important. This is, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But then these are they're not.
They're interrelated, but they are sequential.
Long term also.
Not long term. I think these things can happen in a few months. If
you're saying that they have to make good on their promise that their soil will not be used against terrorism. Of course, that is, we'll have to see.
Okay, let me quickly respond to this very important question. Look, it took them less than a week to vanquish the entire Afghan National Security Force. It's no more there. Okay, so what about these small groups? Can they do it? If they want to do it, they can do it. Okay. That is the litmus test.
We're quickly running out of time. Anwar Sahab, I'll give you your last comments before.
I would slightly disagree with it. These terrorist groups would still pose a threat because the Taliban did not take over militarily the Afghan forces. The Afghan forces just melted away themselves. They surrendered. So there was no fight. But these terrorists
will resist.
They will resist. Yes. They will come up and would challenge them. So we need to see that how do they respond, not in terms of their intention, but in terms of their capability. Their capability would be tested against the ISIS. Their capability would be tested against the TTP if they decide to fight against them. BLA and the rest, I do not count them as capable to be countered.
I think you're outnumbered 2:1 as far as Ambassador Saab and Muhammad Ali Saab is concerned. They both seem to think that the Taliban will be able to deal with any threats that do come out.
Well, again, I would okay. I'll respond to that, but that my assessment is they would still require international assistance on that. They will require some sort of institutional input in that, institutional strengthening in that, if they want to govern Afghanistan in a relatively normal manner.
Okay, Ji Ambassador Saab.
Well, I would say that the Afghan forces surrendered because they were really fed up, of the government that they had, because in these 20 years, Afghanistan has not gone forward, rather it has gone back.
Right.
So the poverty has increased, the problems of the people have increased. So they were just looking for an opportunity that somebody should come, and therefore when the Taliban came, they surrendered.
Right.
There is no doubt that the Afghan army surrendered because they were really fed up of the atrocities being perpetrated on the Afghan people by the Americans and the NATO forces and the other people. So, but they in their own national interest, they surrendered. And I, frankly speaking, I have no doubt that Afghanistan once again during the Taliban regime will return to normal life. There will be peace and security that they have demonstrated in their earlier time also. We should not be really bothered about that. That is their problem to deal with.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Our problem is that we should have the topmost relations with the Taliban.
Okay. Right.
That is my concern.
Ji, Muhammad Ali Sahab, I think you agree, right?
I'll just add a few points.
Ji, we're
I
running out of
think-
time, so
yes,
have to-
I'll briefly just conclude by saying that I think this is a historic moment. It's a fleeting opportunity. We need to help Afghan friends learn from their mistakes and their history. They need to show flexibility with each other and accommodation, build a government, and without this, and achieve security and stability. We are going to
Which
help
is
them
our-
diplomatically, economically, because unless they govern Afghanistan well, our ability to transform our foreign policy from geopolitics to geoeconomics, benefit from regional connectivity, BRI, BLI,
Certainly, of course, it's
these will
important.
become very difficult.
Right.
So it is in our collective interest of Afghan nation and ourselves and all the regional countries that we all, contribute towards stabilizing and achieving security in Afghanistan.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us, Anwarul Haq Kakar Sahab, Umar Khan Ali Sherzai, Saeed Muhammad Ali. Thank you for joining us. Of course, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we've always maintained that to us, the paramount, the primary concern, as far as Afghanistan is concerned, is their own peace and security. As far as the government is concerned in Kabul, we want, there to be inclusive government. We've always said that. We've also always said that as far as the region is concerned, of course, as regional partners, we can and we will do all we can to contribute to that kind of peace and security in Afghanistan. Of course, the coming weeks, the coming days, the coming months will tell what kind of situation develops in Afghanistan. But let's hope that we will have a peaceful Afghanistan so that there is no spillover effect for Pakistan. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.